proposed amendment along with the same. So we will take them one by one, and there are only 3 to 4 changes that have been proposed, and I think they are practically very important. And your suggestions are welcomed in the form of, maybe today in the presentation itself during the session, you can suggest your views on the same, in considering the practical experiences that you may be having while dealing with the IPEs as your support partners, or within the IPE yourself, because I come from an IPE having 20 partners. So I'm also having some practical experiences regarding the same, and considering the practical difficulties and understanding and interpretation issues with respect to the latest modifications in the working of IP, the fees, the number of assignments, the monitoring of the IP, and the working of IPE as the IP. So I think these are wonderful changes which are being proposed, and your views are welcomed. At the same time, the IPBI has also invited comments in the form of, there is a set format on how you can give your comments on the discussion papers. And it is important, let me tell you, it is important to share your views at the right time. Like, this is the time up to 11th of November. We still have time in hand to just spare a few minutes to just go through the amendments once. And there are other discussion papers also available right now to give your comments upon, so that tomorrow when you are dealing with the law is applicable upon ourselves. And then when we won't have an option to say anything about it, so it is the right time to, spend some time on the proposed amendments and give our suggestions. So I welcome you all to the current subject, which is regarding the IPEs. And I hope my screen is visible. And this is a small presentation on those 4 changes which have been proposed. Anjali, is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
So shall I just start? Shall we just take the suggestions side by side, because I have prepared the presentation in that manner, or you want me to take them at the end of the presentation?
Ma'am, side by side should be preferred.
Yeah, sure. So let's start. As I've already explained, the objective of these amendments, this discussion paper and the amendments proposed by this discussion paper, is to implement measures to enhance the effectiveness of the IPEs by organizing them in a proper manner. The regulatory framework is already there for the IPs, individual IPs, but the same cannot be applicable to the IPEs as it is. So there have been certain changes, and to meet the emerging requirements after. So based on the consultation with IPEs and the IPAs, the IBBI has received some feedback on the constraints being as IP to facilitate the IPEs to undertake the expanded role as the IP in accordance with the amendments which were notified in September 2022 and October 2022. The existing framework still needs to be rationalized commensurately to achieve the expected outcomes. So this paper addresses those hurdles. It will also provide some clarity and flexibility to the IPEs to perform their functions within the purview of regulatory framework, which is not there at present, and there is some ambiguity in relation to the concept of the firm working as an individual, because we have seen other professions, and we'll be discussing through how the other professions are taking it up. And most of the professions are making rules for individual professionals and not for the firm. So this would be the first time that a board, a regulatory authority, has thought about the... Sorry. Yeah. Yes. Sorry, let me just change the. Let me just switch to LAN. Just one moment. Is this better? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have just changed my internet. I'm so sorry for that. So what I was telling you was that the other professions, that is a CA, CS, ICWA, and the advocacy, all of them focus on regulating the individual professional. And here, what we are talking about is a firm. So IPE can be an LLP or a company. So here, what IBBI has intended to proposed changes are for regulation of the firm as a whole, but the firm is working as an IP. So there is a mix of a professional platform that has been given to, that is a unique boutique kind of a professional, which comes out as when the IPE works as an IP. So services are being provided at a larger scale, but the representation is being made by an individual. So there had to be certain changes in the existing regulations, which were only targeting the individual professional. So now the changes have been proposed in the at three places. One is IBBI Insolvency Professional Regulations, one is IBBI CIRP regulations, and the inspection and investigation regulations. So they have been placed as Annexure 1, 2, 3 to this discussion paper. And I have taken the the related relevant portion from those amendments, and I have placed that on my presentation itself. So we will be going through them one by one. What have been the IPEs till now? This concept was laid in November 2016. That was there in the mind of IBBI since inception. So that is very much there since we have born. In March 2018, the board amended the IP regulations for defining the role and additional eligibility requirements for IPEs, that is, to provide support services to individual IPs. In September 2022, the board had allowed the entities to carry on activities as an individual IP also, to leverage the resources and experience of the entities to enhance the efficiency of the process. Till 30th September 2023, there were 113 active recognized IPEs in the form of a company, LLP, or registered partnership firms. And out of them, 64 entities have also been registered as IPs. In this discussion paper, there are four aspects which have been covered. One is the monitoring of the IPE. Second is the related party definition for the IPE. The restriction on the number of assignments by an IPE working as an IP. Minimum fee structure of an IPE acting as IP. So first issue, we will analyze the existing framework, which says that IBBI, being a principal regulator, closely monitors the performance and conduct of the IPs in accordance with the mandate under the code, read with the code of conduct as provided in IP regulations, and IBBI grievance and complaint handling regulations, and the IBBI inspection and investigation regulations. Other than that, Section 217 to 220 of the IBC itself deals with the provisions of inspection and investigation. In terms of Section 219 of the code, the IBBI may, upon completion of an inspection or investigation, issue a show cause notice to such IP and carry out its inspection as specified by regulations. And the procedure has to be followed from the IBBI inspection and investigation regulations. As per the regulation 11 of the IP regulations, the disciplinary proceedings shall be conducted in accordance with the inspection and investigation regulations. So these are 4 or 5 places where the monitoring is being done at present. So similar provisions have been shall become applicable on the IPE as well in case no changes are made in the current existing framework. So what is the situation here? An IPE shall be jointly and severally liable for all acts or omissions of its partners or directors as IPs which have been committed during such partnership or directorship. In terms of Regulation 14 of the IP regulations, the board may also de-recognize an IPE by a reasoned order if sufficient cause exists for its de-recognition. For an IPE acting as IP, Regulation 7, Subregulation 2, Subclause HA of IP regulations stipulates that such IPE shall allow only a partner or director, as the case may be, who is an IP and holds a valid authorization for assignment to sign and act on behalf of it. So there is a problem here. IPE is also responsible for all acts or omissions of its partners or directors. Further, it can also be de-recognized for such reasons as have been mentioned. And thereafter, where a peculiar situation has now arisen where one partner is presenting the entire firm and signing and acting on behalf of the firm when IPE is acting as IP in a particular assignment. So now let's quickly go through the other laws which are governing the professionals right now. So the other professionals are the CAs, CS, cost accounting, and advocates. And the other laws are Companies Act for registered valuers, Companies Act, accounting and auditing professionals. So these are all the laws. Let's go through them quickly. As per the existing provisions of CA, Chartered Accountants Act 1949, it empowers the board to discipline, to take stipulated actions against its member if, in its opinion, the member is guilty of a professional or other misconduct, which are mentioned in the first schedule. Further, under Section 21B, the disciplinary committee is empowered to take action against a member if, in its opinion, the member is guilty of a professional or other misconduct, which is mentioned in the second schedule or both first and second schedule of the Act. Similar provisions also exist in the Chapter 5 of Company Secretaries Act and the Cost and Works Accountant Act also. So we are seeing that individually we are bound by our respective professions. Again, the Advocates Act provides for misconduct by an advocate whose name is entered there as such in any role under the provisions of Advocates Act. Section 35 provides that the State Bar Council, through its disciplinary committee, is empowered to take such action. And in terms of Section 36, the Bar Council of India can also take a disciplinary action against any advocate whose name is not entered on any state rolls, if it has reason to believe that such advocate has been guilty of professional or other misconduct. So all the professions have been covered under their respective laws. Further, the valuers. Here, something very interesting has already happened. The valuation guideline, the rules do not provide, they do not distinguish between individual or the entity or the company. So entire rules are applicable both on the individual as well as the firm or the company thereof. Let us see how is it going on. Chapter 4, that is cancellation or suspension of the certificate of registration or recognition of the company's registered valuer rules issued under the Companies Act. It deals with the provisions for taking action against the registered valuers, including the handling of complaints against the RVs. These rules provide for registration of individuals as well as the entity or the companies as the RVOs. These entities registered as valuers are called registered valuer entities. Rule 15 provides that the authority, that is the IBBI, it may cancel or suspend the registration of a valuer for violation of provisions of the Act or any other law allowing him to perform the valuation. These rules or any condition of registration or recognition, as the case may be, in the manner specified in Rule 70. What other laws are applicable on the professionals? Let's see. Section 132 of the Companies Act entrusts overriding powers upon the National Financial Reporting Authority, that is NFRA, in matters related to accounting and auditing standards under the Companies Act. It is also entrusted to oversee the quality of service of the professions associated with ensuring compliance with the accounting and auditing standards, and suggest measures required for improvement in the quality of service. NFRA also has overriding powers of taking actions like imposing penalty or debarring the member or the firm if professional or other misconduct as defined under the Chartered Accountants Act is proved. Now, provided this is the situation, let's analyze the current situation. Companies Act has laid down provisions for taking action against the firm of these professionals limited to the activities covered under the said Act. The valuer profession has not made any distinction between individual or the entity for the purpose of taking any disciplinary action. The specific statutes of the professions, individual professions, as we have just seen, which primarily forms the eligibility criteria for registration as IP, they do not provide any provisions for taking any action against the firm of these professionals. With the dual role framework, an IPE may choose to render only support services or carry on the activities of an IP or undertake both these services which has been entrusted upon it. As per the existing regulatory framework, the IPE is jointly or severally liable for all acts or omissions of its partners or directors as IPs committed during such partnership or directorship. This is what the existing framework is. However, with the introduction of new framework, an IPE may have different partner or director authorized signatory for multiple assignments. There may be repeated instances of contravention or disciplinary proceeding against one or more partners or directors of the IPE acting as IP who are or have been its authorized signatory. So there are different types of risks associated with the IPE in this case, while it is taking the dual role. In such cases, the implication of the contravention by the IPE acting as IP or its partner or director and its consequent impact on the IPE or authorized signatory or the other partner directors, that needs to be addressed. So what is the proposal here? In case of contravention by the IPE acting as IP, the disciplinary proceeding shall be initiated against the IP who is or has been the authorized signatory for that respective assignment. Next, upon initiation of the disciplinary proceeding against such IP, the IPE shall not allow him or her to act as authorized signatory in any new assignment. Such action would not impact the ongoing assignments or the status of AFA of the IPE which is acting as IP or its other partners or directors also, because they are being considered as separate legal entity from the authorized signatory against whom any disciplinary proceedings have been initiated. So but in case there are repeated instances of contravention or disciplinary proceedings against one or more partners or directors of an IPE which is acting as IP, the disciplinary proceedings may also be initiated against that IPE acting as IP on case-to-case basis. However, such action would not impact the status of AFA of the other partners or directors. So this is a much needed immunity for the other partners and directors of the IPE. So the language of the proposed amendment, which has been given in the annexure is in the IPI inspection and investigation regulations. In the regulation 2, in sub-regulation 1, after subclause J, the following clarification shall be inserted, namely, for the purpose of this subclause, the IP who is an individual, the role in his individual capacity or as authorized signatory of the IPE registered to carry on the activities of IP shall be considered. So the role of the individual person is different from the IPE, and he or she shall be responsible for the actions since they are the separate legal entity from the IPE. So here I give rest to this presentation and I invite suggestions shall I stop sharing because the concept is quite clear and we talk preferably with the video? Are there any suggestions on this subject? Treating the partner as a separate legal entity from the IPE, and the disciplinary proceedings against the partner or the authorized signatory shall not impact the IPE or the other partners.
It's a good proposal.
Yeah.
It's a good proposal.
Yeah.
Many individual IPs are not taking steps to be part of the IPE. So
Yeah.
it will help them to be part of the IPE.
Yes, so I have also been dealing with such situations when new partners are admitted to the firm and then they ask about LLP Act and then they ask about the IP provisions, whether I'll be responsible for the actions taken by the other partners. Or I said the language, since inception, I have been interpreting this clause as it is. I said the language of the code, not the code, the language of the IP regulations, although it says that the partner, the IPE shall be responsible for the actions of the partners or the directors. But now the clarity has come in the discussion paper itself, and the intent is that in case a disciplinary action is being taken against one of the persons, even if that partner is representing as authorized signatory on behalf of the IPE itself, even then the IPE has got some immunity and the individual person and his actions shall be considered.
The clarification that the IPE AFA will not be disturbed, that's a good thing. Otherwise, there was a confusion. Somebody may interpret that needs to be suspended. In that case, the entire firm gets disturbed.
Yeah, and the other partners also get affected because of that bad name attached to the reputation.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. So, no other suggestions. Shall we go to the next point? Anjali, have you noted down the comments?
Yes, ma'am, we are noting.
Yeah, so.
Yes, I think we can proceed. We can proceed.
Yeah, so let me just share the screen. So the next issue is the related party definition for an IPE acting as IP. Already in the existing framework, we are aware that providing support services to the partners shall not be considered as related party transaction for that partner or the firm. That is already there since September 2022, March 2018. Now we are seeing what else is proposed now, because now the IPEs are working as IPEs themselves. So let's see the existing law. To ensure independence and to avoid the conflict of interest, the Code of Conduct specified in IP regulations has put in certain restrictions on the IP, which include Clause 23B of the Code of Conduct prohibits an IP from engaging or appointing any of the relatives or related party for or in connection with any work related to any of his assignment. Similarly, Clause 23C of the Code of Conduct prohibits an IP from providing any service for or in connection with the assignment being undertaken by the relative or a related party. But an explanation has been given under this. For the purpose of clauses 23A to 23C, related party shall have the same meaning as assigned to it in clause 24A of section 5, but does not include an IPE of which that particular IP is a partner or director. Under this clause, there was a clarity which was required with respect to the audit and valuation. So what we are doing in practice, that the audit and valuation work is not being assigned to the partners of the same IPE. Rest, all the works can be assigned to the IPE of which that particular IP is a partner or director. Since the institutional framework for IPEs is designed to provide support services to an individual IP in relation to any assignment, the IPE of which the individual is a partner or director has been excluded from the definition of the related party. So this was clear since inception. Now the problem has arisen because of the IPEs which are working as individual IP. For the IPE acting as IP, its partner or director would be its related party. In such case, without specific exclusion, such IPE would not be able to use its in-house resources for engagement or appointment of its partner or director. Similarly, such IPE will also not be able to provide any services for or in connection with the assignment being undertaken by its partner. Such restriction prohibits an IPE acting as an IP from using its own resources. But the crux of the actual intent was of allowing the IPE to work as IP was to use their strengths, was to use their resources. But this restriction is prohibiting the IPE from using their own resources or providing their own services to its own partner or director, which is not commensurate with the existing role. Furthermore, these restrictions undermine the very purpose of establishing a multidisciplinary entity, that is to enhance the efficiency of various processes. While it is imperative that the fundamental principles outlined in the Code of Conduct are adhered to, both in letter and spirit, it is equally essential to provide sufficient flexibility to the professionals and the entities. This flexibility enables them to fulfill their functions and render optimal services. To ensure this, the restriction related to valuation and audit services may be continued. Thus, an IPE acting as IP should be able to engage or appoint its partner or director, or it may also be able to provide any service to its own partner or director. Therefore, the proposal is again, to meet the intended objective of making use of potential institutional and multidisciplinary structure of the IPE, the partner or director of the IPE acting as IP may be excluded from the definition of related party for the purpose of clauses 23B and C of the Code of Conduct, which we have just seen, specified in the IP regulations. Again, the exception related to valuation and audit should be clearly continued. Thus, the proposed changes in the IP regulations are: an explanation has been added after the clause 23C. Not added, the existing explanation has been substituted with this one. For the purpose of clauses 23B to C, related party shall have the same meaning as assigned to it in the clause 24A, subclause 24A of section 5 of the code, but it shall not include an IPE of which that IP is a partner or director, and a partner or director of the IPE registered as IP for the services other than related to valuation or auditing. So let us give a pause to this and let us discuss if anyone has any views on this. I think this is a welcome change and it was very much needed. This clarification was indeed needed here, since we had that since March 2018 for the other partners of the IPE taking services and giving services. But here, since the IPE is now working as IP, so this clarification was missing here.
So this is a welcome change, actually. This is a welcome change.
Much needed.
Much needed.
Mr. Shrikant Zawar has asked if an associate of IPE is a related party. Associate in what sense, sir? Shrikantji, please unmute yourself. You can talk.
Not partner, just associated with IP.
Yeah, it is a related party, but for providing services, when IPE is providing services as IP, it can take services of its own associates. Why not? That has been carved out of the definition of related party. So for taking services under an assignment, you can take services of your associates. No other views?
One more thing is, what happens if the professional fees is charged separately for services for engaging the IPEs, other partners or directors in their independent capacities as chartered accountants in practice or company secretaries in practice, then what happens to the fees that the IP pays?
See,
Suppose what
uh,
happens in that situation?
the IPE providing all the services except for audit and valuation, for which you have to have independent valuers and auditors. Other than those services, all the professional services can be given by the IPE for the assignments being handled by the IP, right? So IP can take his own fees as the remuneration of the IP. The IPE can charge professional fees for the services being provided by them. Of course, everything is subject to the creditor's approval. And thereafter, the valuers and auditors are separate. And individually, you are providing independent services in your independent capacity as a professional, as a CACS or a CWA, then those services can be given independent to these assignments.
What I mean to say is that in case the advocate is a partner or a director in IP and he is an insolvency professional or she is an insolvency professional, if they are providing any professional services as an advocate and charging fees for that particular assignment, apart from the fees charged by IPE, then what happens to that?
Okay, so for that matter, we have followed this practice of not charging any fees if a partner is providing such service in a professional capacity, and we keep that under the IPE services itself. You know what the intent of the law, as we interpret it, is that the IPE is a collection of people who are providing specified services to you, to the partner or maybe an individual IP. So a person providing services in his professional capacity is also covered under the same fees as the IPE is charging.
In that case, the firm is giving advocacy services also.
Firm is supporting the IP. Firm is providing the
Firm is supporting. Suppose the that advocate is acting as an advocate for IP firm. So in that case, suppose he is appearing before the High Court or Supreme Court on behalf of the firm, but the IP cannot represent itself as an advocate. So in that case, that advocate is appearing as an advocate, so that he should not be the fees is definitely separately for that purpose.
So in this case, there are two scenarios. One, the IPE is providing support services.
Okay.
In that case, it has to be part of the IPE fees itself.
Absolutely.
When the IPE is working as IP itself, then the professional is providing service to it in a professional capacity. In that case, they can charge fees in their capacity.
So that means as an advocate, he can charge the fee from the IP.
Yes.
So will that not be a conflict of interest?
But that has not been carved out under the related party definition, if you can see.
Okay. So as in
this part should be covered. Actually, this part should be covered. That in case if the partner or director is being engaged as an outsider and they are charging the fees, will that be also covered under the IPE fees, or how it will be treated like?
There has not been any clarity on this subject, and we
No,
have
that's why the clarity should be there.
Yeah, this clarity should be there. As I said earlier, also we have made our own interpretation for this purpose. Some IPEs are charging IPs for different services provided by their different associates and entities. But we follow a practice. Once you have taken services from this IPE, we do not charge for separate services being provided by different professionals. So this aspect is not clearly covered. So to avoid any violation, we do not charge separately for the other professional services, and they are covered.
No, but this point should be noted by IPA, and it should be tackled with, or there should be some clarification on this aspect as well.
On fees, there has not been a clarification since inception only, and every IP is following different approach on this subject. So Anjali, if you can just note this down.
Just a minute. I want to discuss a scenario. Suppose I am a partner in a multiple CA firm where multiple partners are there, and I'm partner in IPE as well. So if any services from my other partner in the CA firm is giving to the any of the IP or that firm IP, whether that will be under the
As related party, and that is not allowed.
that is not allowed.
Yes. That is very clearly written. Audit and valuation services have to be independent.
Apart from audit and valuation, they can provide the other services in that case.
Yes. And they are charging a fee separately for each professional. A clarity is needed because we follow our own interpretations. And there are different approaches to this.
So in this proposed amendment, there needs to be many more clarifications. The proposed amendment is not sufficient to keep rest of all the confusions.
Yes, confusion related to the charging of fees, because providing services as a professional and providing service as a part of IPE itself should be covered, because other than the valuation or auditing, there can be many services, some professional, some may not be professional. For example, stock taking services, for example, search records, that is a specific service. Advocacy is a specific profession and that should be charged separately. Whether that can be, this clarification should be noted down. Anjali, if you have noted it down, then we can proceed to the next one. I hope the question is clear.
The audit, what we are talking over here is the transaction audit, right? Because many times it happens like the auditor who is there for the corporate data, he resigns.
Yeah.
And there is a requirement to appoint a statutory auditor as well.
So both the audits are covered, I think. Here.
Will be covered.
Because, yeah, both of them are covered because once the statutory auditor enters into it, statutory auditor also has to be independent.
For that reason, any audit should be covered because audit is audit. In any audit, the independence should be there.
Yes, yes. So we move on to the third issue. That is a restriction on the number of assignments of an IP. The existing law says that the role of an IP under code is very extensive and demands time and efforts. The time-bound nature of the process makes the role of IP more indispensable. Therefore, the restriction of 10 assignments was introduced for an RP in CIRP process, of which not more than 3 shall have admitted claims exceeding 1,000 crore rupees each. But the same may not be applicable as it is on the IPE acting as IP, because as such in the present framework, the same is getting applicable on them as it is. But considering the size of the firm, considering the structure, the specialized services they are able to provide, the number of people they employ, then this limit should change for the IPE, which is working as IP. Because they have more than one individual working as their partner or director, and all of them are IPs. It is pertinent to note that IPs have been undertaking assignments in multiple roles as IRP, RP in a CRP, liquidator, personal guarantor matter. Taking note of the responsibilities entrusted upon the IPs for each of these roles, it is considered expedient that restriction to be extended to more assignments so that IP is able to devote time and resources efficiently. So the proposal is to provide a clarification under clause 22 of the Code of Conduct, which is specified in IP regulations, and that should be modified to include an IP who is an individual, the overall limit of 10 assignments at any point of time, out of which not more than 3 shall have admitted claims exceeding 1,000 rupees each. The overall limit includes all the assignments of an IP. And an IP, which is an entity, overall limit of 5 assignments per partner or director who are IPs holding AFA at any point of time, excluding the assignments taken by an IP in his individual capacity. However, number of assignments for an IPE acting as IP at any point of time shall not be more than 15, having admitted claims exceeding 1,000 crores. The overall limit includes all the assignments of the IPE acting as IP. So I'm sure here.
No, but here one thing I want to check is whether this limit is on CIRPs only, or liquidation and other voluntary liquidation, etc., are also covered.
All the assignments of an IP.
So includes liquidation as well as other assignments like voluntary liquidation, CIRP,
Yeah.
individual insolvency.
Yeah, all of them.
Okay, but that clarification should be brought in here.
That is there. The overall limit includes all the assignments of an IP. That line has been added in A and B both.
Okay, but I think here still they have not mentioned whether it is, because earlier when they say 10 assignments, it means CIRPs, but here they have not
Yeah,
mentioned.
they have brought it. The overall limit includes all the assignments of an IP because all of them require his time.
Okay.
So suggestions for the IPE working as an entity?
Here, when we talk about IP as an individual,
Yeah, as an
the
individual.
limit is maximum 10 assignments.
Yeah.
Whereas when we talk about a partner or a director, because usually when
No.
partner, they will be that, to happen with that particular IPE. So then why the restriction of 5 assignments for that partner or director? So is it like he should as an individual also practice for the other 5 assignments outside the
Yes.
IP?
Yes, individual partners are free to work for their own assignments as well as for being an authorized signatory for the firm. There is no restriction. So imagine a scenario where one partner is handling 5 assignments. I'm just taking a hypothetical case, which may not be possible because
No, here, Harmeet, it means that this is, in the individual's capacity as well as other capacity, as as an associate of IPE, the limit has been capped to 5 assignments now. They have reduced from 10 assignments.
no,
In case the person,
excluding the assignments taken by an IP in his individual capacity.
yeah, in his individual capacity now,
it is for
they have
the
reduced from 10 to 5, right?
No, I think it has
No.
been increased from 10 to 15.
I think that
It
should
has
not be the case.
increased.
Then it will be much too much.
Yeah,
Individual cannot handle 15.
And
I think it should be
normally
rather reduced.
an IPE normally has many partners, and it is, I don't think a situation should be there where all the partners are already having exhausted their 10 assignments, and over and above they are having 5 assignments each on behalf of the IPE acting as IP. So I don't see a situation in near future. 15
But they cannot, give 15 assignments to an individual. Maybe
they cannot,
in
and they
individual
will
capacity.
not. They will not. Please try and understand. This is an overall limit kept over them, but it has been excluded. The individual assignments have been excluded for the benefit of the individual IP only.
No, but then that's why I'm saying that, there should be a clarification that it should be rather, it's good that they've reduced it to, 5 for the, even spread of assignments to other IPs as well. So I think it's rather better. Earlier 10 assignments were too much. Now it should be reduced to 5. Rather, even otherwise also, whether he's a partner or director of an IP or in the individual capacity, it's good. But, when they have mentioned overall limit of 5 assignments, I think it should be, 5 reduced from 10. So that's why clarification is very necessary here.
I think
IPA should take note of it. Even if it is otherwise, not there, then they should even otherwise reduce the number of assignments from 10 to 5, which is quite reasonable per individual.
No, it is not that way. I mean, if we are practicing as an IP, then it will be 10 assignments. For an IPE, they are giving a overall capping, which will be calculated 5 assignments per IP for that particular IPE. And that will be calculated basis the partner or the directors in the respective IP.
And it will be in addition to the individual assignment. So it is additional assignment only.
yes.
So and for bigger cases, the 15 assignments per IPE firm. So that way the limits are okay, I think.
Yeah, I find them to be reasonable. While allocating work within an IPE, always taken care of that one person is not burdened with too much of
He's suggesting to reduce it. So, but I think it should be fine. Don't
Right.
reduce it further.
No,
So,
it
you know,
is
Ma'am,
not
I
reduced.
think it should be 10, inclusive of, as a partner of IP, he or she may be having 5 assignments, and individual may be 5. But the overall should be 10, whether it by IPE or by individual capacity. This is my submission.
Yeah,
But
that
then who will act as an signatory in the IPE if this comes into force? Please, Sajid. Then nobody will act as this thing, no, as an IPE.
why?
Because IPE
No,
itself
why
is an
not?
independent person who can act as an independent IP.
So where is the
Yes, sir.
restriction?
I don't think this will be the case. It must be on the basis of work being performed by, or there must be, this understanding must be there among the partners, I think.
And on that basis only the work is assigned, that there is
Yeah.
too much burden is not there on one partner who is the author, who's being selected as the authorized signatory on behalf of the IPE, and individually his limits are also there. And on any partner at any given point of time, limit of the 10 assignments will always be applicable, whether he is acting as the authorized signatory or he is working in his individual capacity.
Yes.
I think that clarification must be there.
Yeah.
That is missing. Other than that, everything is all right.
Yeah.
but still, I feel, 15 assignments for an individual is too much. It's
15
too much,
is
actually.
not for an individual, sir. For an individual, 10 assignments cap should always be there.
No, 10 is there, but 5, if they get 5 here, they're saying excluding the assignments taken by individual in his individual capacity. So that means it will be 15, 10 there and 5 here. So 15 is too much for an individual.
No, sir.
It's
10, that is what we are saying. A clarification stating that an individual IP, whether working in his individual capacity or representing the IPE working as an IP. 10 limit should be there. That cap
right,
should
but here you are mentioning excluding the
Yeah.
assignments taken by an individual. So that means 10 plus 5 here. It appears like that.
It does appear 10 plus 5, sir.
So that
Rest,
I think rest is fine.
I think it is quite clear. It's 10 plus 5. I don't know why.
Okay, Anjali, if you are noted down, we can move to the next.
You got my point, Harmeet.
Yes, sure.
It's in bracket. It's mentioned in the first sentence itself, excluding the assignment taken by an individual in his individual capacity. So that means 10 and plus 5. So it's giving a confusion. It says that means individual can take 15.
Yeah. So that is what Premlata ji has also mentioned, and that's quite a valid point, that the clarification to this subject is needed. If Anjali, you have understood it and noted it down, that the cap of 10 assignments per IP, whether he is working as the individual IP in his own independent assignments, or he is representing the IPE working as IP as an authorized signatory, the cap of 10 assignments per IP should be maintained.
And Harmeet, one more thing is that even outside also, when you go outside this particular provision, and in other terms, it is 10 assignments for CIRP only, not for liquidation and other, right? So the intent should be 10 for all,
so that has
including
been-
liquidation and all, that should be clearly mentioned. Otherwise here it is appearing vague. I mean, it is appearing like 10 assignments.
Let's see the language once. Anilji, let's go back to this. I think it is clear, but yes, if further clarity is needed, then that can also be written. They say the overall limit includes all the assignments of an IP. All the assignments of an IP would mean anything being done as an insolvency professional. Similarly, in point B also, the last line says the overall limit includes all the assignments of the IPE acting as IP. So in whatever capacity they are providing services as insolvency professional, should include liquidator, should include bankruptcy trustee maybe. So all the assignments are included here.
No, here it is like that. But even otherwise, if you see the other provision, other part where it says it's restricted to 10, there they have mentioned CIRP only.
So that is what is being substituted.
It has to be in sync. It has to be in sync with this, na?
Now, so that clarification is being substituted, sir.
Huh.
The
That
same
all
clause is-
covers everything, because if you start writing CIRP, liquidation, bankruptcy, IP, voluntary, then you'll have to write every word of it. So instead of writing every word, they have written all. So I don't know why we are saying it's a confusion. It's
No,
actually sweeping effect. It is.
earlier that this clarification was missing. He's correct, but right now this is
Yes, earlier it was missing. You are right. This
Yeah.
has substituted the earlier confusion. So
Yeah.
I think this is clear, right?
So
I
if
think
Anjali, you have brought up a point.
I think the overall limit should exclude the IP working as IP. I think that is in that case, I think the limit is 15. And in that overall limit, after the overall limit, there should be one thing, that overall limit excluding working as director or partner of an IP.
Sir,
Because in
for
that case,
that matter only we are
the limit is
suggesting.
15.
Yeah, for that matter only we were suggesting that an IP in whatever language they wish to incorporate, one thing has to be incorporated here as a clarification only, that an individual cap of 10 assignments should be there on an IP, whether he is working as an individual under clause A here or representing the IPE as an authorized signatory.
But in that case, I think another overall limit of 5 assignments per partner or director is also there for IP working as IP. So in that case, I think there should be 10 plus 5, I think. 10 overall limit of 10 assignments should exclude these 5 assignments working as partner or director of IPE.
Sir, how can then you justify the job being taken?
Actually, 10 assignments is there. 10 assignments or limit are there.
So that
in
limit
that
has
case,
to be there. That is what we are saying. Yeah.
Miss
And,
Anit, we can justify it in one way. When one individual who doesn't have an IPE support can do 10 assignments, a person who has IPE support can certainly do 15, 10 plus 5.
yes.
Why not? If one person who has no support, let's say, and our code says that IP is a superhuman who can do 10 assignments, having 1,000 crore claim of 3 at least, I'm sure this person can do 10 plus 5 with the support of a good IPE.
Individual IPs can take the support of the IP firm and other firms also. So in that case, that clarification I don't think will hold. Individual or as a partner, the overall cap should be there, because the individual's capacity doesn't change whether he's acting as an individually or from the in a group. So it should, the overall cap should be there. Whether
Right.
what should be the cap, that is matter of debate, but the overall cap for an individual should be there, whether individually or in with acting with somebody else. So there should be a cap.
So that's why I'm saying. It should be capped to the maximum number of 10 assignments.
Yes.
Yeah, the work should be reasonably distributed, Devrajji. Any view?
Correct. Rather, actually, I would further suggest it should be less than 10 in that case, including the assignments as an IPE partner or director, but it should be even less than 10 for even distribution.
I don't have reservations on increasing or to decreasing it. I'm just saying there are many people who are doing voluntary liquidation where there is hardly any work to do. They're also doing cases like personal insolvency, where hardly you just have to make few reports. Those assignments will also be taken care of. As you rightly said, if one person is doing 15 CIRP assignments, he'll go mad himself. But this limit is a statutory limit, which after which you will not, proceed it. That is why we believe, as per the what is written in the clarification, it is 10 plus 5. Unless they give further clarity on as we are discussing here, that it should be overall 10.
Yeah.
No,
So in that case, the overall 10 should have a cap of 5 CRP processes. So that way it will help. Overall 10 and maximum 5 within that limit. So that will help.
so the point which I want to make over here is like we are talking about the PI assignment per partner or director. So when we talk about the 10 as the maximum limit, then the differential part, if the director wants to take 10 assignments, so is it that he should then take the support of the IP?
Yeah.
Because why the restriction of 5 per director?
Because they are representing the IPE, which is working as IP.
So that will be an add-on, right? I mean 10 plus 5. So that should be 10 plus 5. Because representing IPE over there. Because in any case, the director or a partner who is associated with that, not associated, sorry, who is a director or a partner with that IPE. So definitely he will be going to take the support of that IPE only for whatever assignments he is going to do.
Yeah.
Except support IPs at one point of time. So we are not talking about those associated IPs. We are talking about the IPs who are the directors or partners in that respective IP.
So let us have a consensus and then submit our suggestion to the IPA.
See, what I'm saying is that 15 in any case is too excessive for an individual. It should be restricted to 10.
Madam, one more.
It should be
Of the
restricted.
tax audits which are done by chartered accountants. So there is an individual, benchmark, or I can say the capping, individual capping, as well as there is a firm capping when we sign the tax audit reports. So I think to a similar extent it has been done over here as well.
Yes.
And as we discussed, like somebody is having his the potential, maximum potential, then to that extent only he will work. He will not go above that. End of the day, it is the liability also, which is the hanging sword.
Yes. I agree with that. The limit of 10, but that is my personal view. So your comments are also invited, and you can think about it later. And the functionality has been given on the RBBI website. You can go over there, put your comments on the specific amendments, and those will also be, considered. Right?
Right, madam.
So this is one touching point. So let's move on. Okay, so this is the language that they have suggested. Let's come to this first. I think I missed this earlier. A clarification being substituted, the existing clarification is being substituted. It says who is an insolvency professional who is an individual may at any point of time not have more than 10 assignments under the code, of which not more than 3 shall have admitted claims exceeding 1,000 rupees, which is an IPE, may at any point of time not have more than 5 assignments per partner or director who are IPs holding AFA under the code, and not have 15 assignments having admitted claims exceeding 1,000 crore rupees each. Third, for the purpose of clause 1 above, the number of assignments under clause 2 shall not be reckoned. And here, that clarification is again missing, which we were talking about. The overall limit includes all the assignments of an IPE. This is written in the plain language of the discussion paper, but this is again missed in this. So yes, this is tantamounting to 15 assignments of for that partner.
And that's see now that's why I was saying that it's 15. 15 is too much. There cannot be, in this situation, there cannot be an even distribution of work among the IPs.
Yeah. So one clarification for the matter for the word assignments. Would the word assignment include all the assignments being handled as an IP?
Ma'am, it does says all, right? I don't know what
Yeah.
more clarification we need.
Devrajji, here, when we are going through the language of the proposed amendment, here the word all assignments is missing. And that was there in the plain text of the proposal. So this is the text I've taken
Okay,
from the
okay.
discussion paper. Yeah. And this is the proposed language in the amendment.
And just one clarification, if there is here, it just says partner. It doesn't say designated partners or the associate partners, right?
So that is a concept within an LLP. I don't think
Correct. So any partner can be
any partner, yes.
got it.
That is
Got
an
it. So
internal.
if some IPE has 20 partners, let's say, they can have 100 assignments.
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay. Any other
No,
comment?
but they are saying that in any case, an IPE,
Mhm.
an IPE as an individual, as an IP, cannot have more than 15 assignments, right?
But they say having admitted claims exceeding 1,000 crores. So this drastically needs an amendment.
So 15 only which are having claims of more than 1,000 crores each,
Yes.
is it?
Yeah.
It can have beyond that also.
Yeah. So there is no limit now.
That's a
So
bit too much.
whether, so
I think
whether
this is too much.
the,
This is
A lot
too
of clarification is
whether
required.
the partner or director working as an IP as an individual, whether the partner or director's assignments as an IP would be added to the IP who is an individual, IP who is working as an individual.
No.
So if IP is working as an individual, his limit is 10 assignments. Okay, and if he is a partner or director of an IPE and the IP is working as an IP, in that case he would have 5 more assignments. He can
Yes.
do 5
No,
more.
he should be the signatory of that assignment, not.
Assigned.
He should be the signatory on behalf of IPE. Then this 5 thing comes into picture.
Okay.
And this is interesting, not have more than 15 assignments having admitted claims exceeding 1,000 crore. That means within that limit, it can have more assignments as well.
So in that case, the overall limit in the previous section, the overall limit of an IP of 10 assignments, it is a little bit confusing. It is, I think, overall limit because overall limit then should exclude just to mitigate the confusion that overall limit should exclude the IP working as a partner, assigning as a partner or director of an IP working as IP. And otherwise, there is a confusion there.
No, sir, this I think they have done it so that people are motivated to join IPEs to get to 15. Otherwise, they'll stay at 10 if
Yeah,
they are
because
individual.
the
And the
intention
question
also
is
is
that
to have a corporate
the question
structure.
is that is there any confusion in that overall limit or not? Actually,
No, this is clear.
Confusion is not there unless you say that it's unfair. Unfairness is can be claimed by anybody, but
and
confusion I think is pretty clear.
that is different thing, whether it is fair or unfair. But is there any confusion? Because one IP who is working as an individual, he can sign 10, he can do 10 assignments. That is clear. And if he would act as a signatory, as a partner or director of an IPE working as an IP, then can he sign another 5?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Only as
Okay.
signatory, not individually. Only as
Okay.
signatory of that
signatory. Okay.
IPE acting as IP.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That is clear now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's move on to the last issue. That is the minimum fee structure of an IPE registered as IP. So the existing framework says the minimum fixed fee has a minimum fixed fee structure and a performance linked incentive fee for the IPs in a CIRP, which is always subject to the COC. The minimum fixed fee structure and performance linked incentive fee that was introduced to address issues related to fixation of fee. connected litigations, directions from the AA, etc., and incentivizing IPs for time-bound resolutions. But with the introduction of the provisions of allowing IPE to act as IP, as per that interpretation, these regulations shall also apply to such IPEs. However, because of their institutional framework, IPEs are better placed to negotiate fee commensurate with the services offered by them as compared to an individual IP. Therefore, the scope of services of IPE acting as IP, the scope of services are already different due to inclusion of support services at the discretion of the creditor. Therefore, what do you think? The existing framework of individual IP should be applicable as it is on the IPEs working as the IPs? No. Any views?
Ma'am, currently, as it seems, it says IPE can give quotation even below what is mandatory, right? For the IPs. There is no limit. So for IP, there is a minimum you can get it. But for
working as an IP, the same provisions are getting applicable right now.
we'll read it maybe
Yeah.
because I understood it wrongly, because then it says that there is that limit is not applicable on IPE.
Rather, I think IPE should not have that minimum fixed fee structure.
Yeah, when you don't have minimum fix, you can go below minimum. That is a problem. So
That is actually a problem.
yeah, so that going
That
going
problem
high,
is in any
ma'am, going
profession.
high, for going high, you don't need any law.
Yeah.
Only to go low, there is a problem. So
No, there should be a
IPE, if they'll go below.
minimum limit.
So let's not talk about the lows here. Let's talk about the minimum fee, whether that is required or not. And I strongly feel that that is not required for the IPEs acting as IP, because that is a totally different concept altogether. They are having more services in hand, they are having more facility in hand, they are having a better infrastructure. Maybe that is why the concept has been introduced, because of their multidisciplinary nature of the diversified services they are able to provide. So my view is in consensus with the proposed view, and it is proposed to clarify that the existing fee structure is applicable to IP only and not applicable to the IPE acting as IP. Therefore, the existing regulation 34B of the IBBI CRP regulations, which were amended in September 22, which stipulates a minimum fee structure and performance linked incentive fee for the IP, is which is subject to the approval of COC. There has been a change, and here
No, but the problem is that the scope of services being provided by IPE is higher than the services that the individual provides in the individual capacity. So I think even now, since more and more IPEs are getting registered as IPs, it's 64. To avoid undercutting, rather there should be a minimum fee structure for IPEs. I think it should be there.
Yeah, so
That's of course my view, but then I feel that there should be a minimum structure to avoid
You're right, sir.
undercutting.
Minimum is problem. Maximum you can go up to 10 lakh and let COC approve it. Doesn't matter. But going below, if you go below an individual, how will an individual fight against you?
I don't think IPEs are quoting below that.
Ma'am, market
but I
is
tell you,
amazing.
still there should be a clarity. There should be a clarity, and minimum amount should be prescribed. Minimum amount must be prescribed. Maximum can go up to any, of course, depending on the nature of assignment, or the claims involved or the stakes involved. But I think minimum is required.
What I think here, IPE shall not quote minimum or anything below that, because they will not be able to
Survive.
meet their own expenses.
Correct. Ma'am, what you are talking about is prudent IPE who will not take any assignments for any sake. But let's say you have IPs who don't have assignments. You feel like, okay, instead of them sitting home, why not take an assignment which is below CIRP, so that all other IPs who are individuals will never be able to quote even against it. So
But
it's like binding one hand of individuals, but IPEs are given free rein in this on both sides. Obviously, upper side both can go, but on the lower side, an individual cannot go, but an IPE can go. So what you're talking about is a fair market practice you are giving, and
But
you
for
obviously
any
will go above.
profession, such kind of professional entities do exist. So I don't think.
Absolutely. So absolutely. So put a limit on that. So we'll put a limit. You will not go below, as an individual cannot go below that.
Yeah. So
Otherwise, banks will never appoint an IP. They will always say, oh, if we want, we can go down also. If we higher, they can go anyways. But lower, only an IPE can go. So they will also say, oh, you have any IP who is sitting idle. Why don't you, take an assignment at 50,000? What will stop an IP from doing that?
okay. Other views?
Even in case of insolvencies of corporate guarantors or PIRPs, like you have seen people like quoting the fees of 10,000, 20,000, 15,000 rupees per month. You are in the market, so you would have definitely seen quoting around 15,000 or 10,000 rupees per assignment in case of personal guarantors or corporate guarantors. You have seen that in case of personal guarantors. So I don't know. You are more aware of this, but then this undercutting is always there because there is no minimum fees prescribed for personal insolvencies. I think this should be the case with IPEs also. I'm telling you. I mean, it's a practical situation. Where it's very very natural that people will underquote or to get the assignments. In any case, there are not many assignments now in the market. So, I mean, I don't know. It's better, to have some decent fee structure. A minimum cap limit should be there. Of course, that's my view.
But another problem arises with the minimum fee is that the banks do not go beyond that. Then, in most of the cases, they stick to that minimum.
Ma'am, this is minimum, not maximum. So why?
No, they don't raise that. They say that is.
And when they don't have, they will go below minimum.
Madam,
Yeah, they
what
can always go below minimum also. They can go below minimum. Banks can go below minimum. At least, if there is a minimum cap, banks cannot, negotiate below that. But then, if you quote higher, you still have the room for negotiation. But below, minimum, they cannot go, obviously.
So, here, this up to this clause, up to sub-regulation 6, this is all right. The provisions of this regulation shall not be applicable to IPE working as an IP. But here we also need something for as a minimum threshold fee for an IPE acting as IP, right? Which is
Yes,
not
yes, yes,
individual
yes.
IP, right? Which cannot.
Yes.
Madam, nowadays, the opinion of the bankers, because usually when we go and meet the bankers, they prefer a IP structure in the assignment. And many a times it happens like, the cases what we talk of, if the claim size is more, but obviously they prefer an IP in that assignment. But sometimes as far as the fees concerned of whatever which has been stipulated, that becomes a challenge if you also want that IP and IP to be there in that assignment.
Yeah.
So I think this minimum benchmark for IPE should not be there, because yes, there is a fixed cost to the IPE. At the same time, it is the preference of the IP, and nobody is stopping the individual IPs. And would, I think, promote the corporate structure for giving the support of IPC. So this is my personal opinion, maybe contradictory, but yes, this is my opinion.
No. You are always welcome to give your opinion. And I think we can always submit our suggestions separately, and it is a 2 minutes job on the IPBI. It is given in the discussion paper as well as on the IPBI website. So I request all of you who have a view on these regulations and the proposed amendments, you go to the site and write whatever you wish to. Because once there is a majority view on something, then that is, I think that will be considered. And as the IPA is also there on this, in this session, I would request Anjali, and Anjali, who else is there on behalf of ICSI?
Harmeet, it's better if it goes, through IPA.
Yeah,
Then
definitely. I'm requesting
it'll
them.
have more force rather than, individuals giving comments.
Yeah.
Weightage to IPA comments will be given more
My
weightage.
email
because-
ID, I will share the email ID.
Okay. So that is the best. So writing on an email will always be. But Anjali, are you noting down the suggestions right now?
Yes, ma'am, I'm noting this.
So that will help us all. And that is the purpose of this session. So those were the 4 amendments. And if you have...
Harmeet, one more thing of this, discussion paper. Now, outside this discussion paper, there is, one important thing which is in my mind for a long time is, under the CIRP. When there is a resolution plan, and when resolution plan is approved and the new management comes in or the new promoters come in, there's a big problem in the sense that, in the case of listed companies, I'm talking about listed companies. Now, in the case of listed companies, what happens is that the equity gets written off, right?
Yes. Yes.
The promoters get the new equity in the form of, there's a capital restructuring, revision in the capital structure. Now, in that situation, what happens is that, when there's a writing off of the existing capital, the, minority shareholders or the public shareholders, they are seriously and adversely and badly affected because of, this writing off of equity. Now the small investors who have put in their hard-earned money, they lose their money completely when the equity gets written off or the shares get delisted. They are the biggest losers in the process. Of course, promoters will get the equity in the in form of new revised equity share capital, but the existing retail shareholders or the small shareholders, they are the worst in the worst situation. They are the biggest losers. Actually, there should be an amendment in the IBC or in the regulations that there should be some protection for the small or retail shareholders or the minority public shareholders. They should be
Yeah, Anil, I understand your point, but that goes same for the minority shareholders in case of an unlisted company also. Since IBC does not differentiate between the listed and unlisted, they only the shareholders.
I'm saying that's a similarly now in case of listed companies it's more. In the case of private companies or small companies, typically it's pretty concentrated with the promoters only, right? But public shareholding is, you'll not find public shareholders, typically in the small companies or private companies. So when, of course, if there are outside shareholders in small companies or
Their
private
interests
companies,
are
equal
affected.
protection should be given to them also. I'm not saying that they should be denied or they should not be given, but here this is a very, very serious situation. People have lost money badly, in this.
Quite a subjective subject. If such kind of a lever is given now, then all the related people will also come in the form of the public shareholding, and then it will be very difficult to differentiate between the public and the privately held equity holders.
No. So I'm saying only there should be a restructuring only of the promoters to the extent of promoters' equity only. The public shareholders should continue as they were, they were holding the shareholding before. Those they should continue as it is. Only the restructuring should be within the promoters' group shareholding, not the outsiders.
For listed companies, yes, that can be done because they have quite clearly defined promoters.
Correct. So that's even promoters are otherwise for the private companies also there. Of course, in private companies, it's not difficult to trace or isolate the, promoters from the other shareholders because equity percentage holding is very small. And typically you will find in private limited companies or unlisted public companies, there are not many shareholders who are outsiders or the promoters. So same is the case in both. So I am saying that, this, I don't know whether IPA is, there's somebody from IPA also.
We do have somebody from IP.
No, who is there? Anjali?
Anilji, we are talking about changing law, and I don't think today's roundtable, will be able to
I know
help
that.
much in
That's
that.
why I'm saying. That's why I'm saying it's outside that. But IPA or somebody should take a note of it, and there should be a session separately on this, so that comments should go to IBBI. If there is a representation on this issue, IBBI can still think and consider that.
So I would request you to write down on the email ID that Anjali is going to provide to all of us shortly. And you can mention this point separately, and it should reach the correct place.
Maybe we can have a separate discussion on this, on the general issues under IBC. There should be a separate by IPA, and then these comments should be also sent to IBBI. What I'm suggesting is that they should invite.
On this subject, the practical difficulties faced by the RAs after the plan approval.
Yes.
Sessions on that, and I would request you to keep a track on that, because our ICSI is holding sessions on absolutely relevant topics, and I have seen my own partner, Mr. Nilesh Sharma, having one of such topics. Very recently, he had such practical difficulties session, and those suggestions were also collected to be given as a representation. So I would request you to keep a track on all the emails that we keep getting, and ICSI IIP is also inviting suggestions on what kind of sessions you want, what kind of discussions you want. So there also you can be active. And anyways, in today's discussion, it has been recorded, and I think it should reach some place. And in the very next session on this subject, you can always raise this. Other than that, also there are many practical difficulties RAs are facing, because they are not the professionals, and they generally don't have many advisors at that stage. So RPs are only taking care of their compliances in the monitoring stage. So RPs also need hand-holding from IPA as well as IBBI.
No, it's not RAs actually. It's not RAs, because RAs are not impacted. They will get the equity in any case. They will be protected. But it's from the minority or public shareholding point of view. It's more from the outsiders who are small shareholders, etc.
We as RPs should raise that. We will only get that platform. Minority will never get such a platform to raise.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. So there should be some special, sessions for this, and there should be general, comments, or they should, discuss on the practical problems being faced by the stakeholders of the corporate debtor, and should be given to the IBBI.
No.
So that there are some amendments in the law, pertaining to these aspects.
Right. So, shall we end today's session, Anjali?
Yes, ma'am. I have already shared my email ID on the chat box for the comment.
Okay. And if we close this before time, so we'll be getting the hours, no?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that will be the first question everyone will be sending.
We can discuss it longer if you want.
So the comments can be sent on anjali.gupta@icsi.edu. Before we close the session, I request everyone to note this down. And comments for today's session can be sent to them, and they can make a collective list to be given to the RBI from.
Anjali, who's the person who's at IPA, ICSI IIP, who's organizing this, or these roundtable discussions, webinars, etc.
There are different people, but I would request you to keep a
No,
track.
Anjali can tell who's the person concerned.
Anjali,
I'm sure there's a designated person for this.
I think the problems myself.
Sorry? No. I mean, who's organizing these webinars and roundtable discussions? Who's the person at
Organizing
ICSI
the
IIP?
webinars and workshops.
You are doing it only, Anjali? Hello?
Oh.
Nitika is not involved?
Hello?
yeah.
Hello, Nitika is not involved.
No, sir. Actually, she has done workshop webinar series only
Okay.
on reviewing regulations.
Okay.
Other workshops and webinars, I am doing it.
Achha, you are doing it. Okay, fine.
Okay,
Thanks.
so I would request once everyone to switch on their cameras if they have reached to their seats. I think now. So shall I take a screenshot? No, everyone is not available. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good day.
Good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.